Welcome back everyone to the REST API in-depth series. In this video, we're going to go over a bunch of exercises together to get more practice with server-side routing. That's what we looked at in the previous video, and it was the first time we were able to actually route the request to different endpoints depending on what the actual client was looking for. And this is definitely something that we're going to be using a lot, hence why it's a separate kind of two-part series with the exercise as well as the theory that we looked at previously. So this is just meant to get more hands-on practice with that idea, and I came up with some fun examples that we can actually see some real-life things that we might actually run in the real world. So let's take a look at the exercises together. Okay, so to start, I have these up all on GitHub as with all the previous exercises that we'll do for the series as well. I have a warm-up here as well as 3 exercises, and they get kind of progressively more challenging and build up on each other, but they are all independent exercises. So feel free to grab it off the GitHub, or you can just follow along in the video and pause and then kind of watch the explanation and then test it out for yourself and then actually see the solution as well if you like, whichever is easier for you. So let's get started with a warm-up. So I'd like you to create a Deno workspace if you're using VS Code and create a server TS file. And then I want you to create a web server in Deno and listen on the default port, in this case 8000. So that's using Deno serve. And then I want you to respond to and create these routes that I have listed right here. This is localhost 8000, which is default route, default port, as on localhost if you used just Deno serve by itself or explicitly gave it the port 8000. But the /hello path name, I want you to respond to with just a string hello. The /by path name, I want you to respond with a string sia. And then every other route that's not either /hello or /by, I want you to respond with a not found. Which is also a string. And then I want you to test these both out in your browser as well as in Insomnia just to make sure that they work as expected. So give that a shot and then we'll go through it together. All right, so to start, I'll create a new folder here for each of these. I'll just call this warmup. And in that warmup folder, I'll do my server.ts file. And in here, I'll do not display node. I have to actually start a Deno project. That's why I didn't get my autocomplete. So I'm going to do that. I skipped a step here. I'll do type in Deno, Command-Shift-P, Control-Shift-P in VS Code, initialize workspace configuration, enable linting, yes, and unstable APIs, I want to say no. And that's going to go ahead and create this VS Code settings.json so that Deno can actually get set up in the workspace, as you can see down here. And now that I have that, I should be able to do Deno dot, and then I have serve, which is my nice TypeScript autocomplete, and I'll pass this my handler function here. We'll rename that at some point, but for now, we'll just go with that. So we have our async function handler. This is going to come in and get a request object, which is the web standard request object from the fetch API. And in here, we've seen previously that we can actually grab the URL out of the request. So we can do a couple of things. We could basically do an if statement based on the request URL directly. And this will be something like http://localhost, and then the port, in this case 8000 by default. So this is default port 8000. And we can see that by looking at the docs, or if you hover over this, you'll see that this is the default configuration, unless you specify a path name using an object before this handler here. So we can either do an if or a switch based on this. We'll save the URL pattern stuff for the next exercise, unless you want to test it out with this one as well. Or we can actually create a URL object. So what we can do is also we can say const URL is equal to new URL. And this is the URL constructor or a URL API, the web API. We can pass in a URL like this, and it will just create that URL object. So what I'll do here is actually, I'll console log 2 things out. I'll console log the request.url, and I'll also console log the URL really quick, just so we can see the difference and we're all on the same page. We do have to return a response here, otherwise Deno is not going to be happy with us because it expects a new response. I'll just do hi for now, and that's going to make that error go away. So I'll open my terminal, we'll test this out, and we'll actually get it working shortly. So I'm going to make sure I'm in the correct folder here. I'm not right now, so I'm going to switch to the warmup folder. I'll do cd warmup, and I'll do Deno run. We have to do --allow -net, and then we have to do the file name, in this case server.ts. And actually what I'll do is also add a --watch just so that I don't have to keep restarting the server, because I'm going to be showing you a lot of different changes as we go for each of these exercises. So you can see that it started the watcher process there, and then I have this listening on this port right here. So if I right click that and I copy it, I'll go over to Chrome, I'll open a new tab, I'll paste that in, and I'll kind of zoom in, and we can see that we get my hi there, which is quite nice. And I'll switch back to VS Code, and we can see our logs. We're getting 2 logs because of the favicon, and we'll see a little bit later why that is when we look at one of the third exercise in this case. But let's take a look at 2 things here. Right here, this is, I should have probably give these a tag, but we can see that this is the rec.url, which is the entire string. And the second log that we have here is the object URL, which is this one right here, which you can see if I scroll all the way up here so that we can see the whole thing above my face. We can see that breaks this URL down into its requisite parts here, right? So we have like the full href is the entire thing. We have the origin. Notice the slash is missing because that actually is the path name that we're looking for. We have a whole bunch of other things that we'll use in later videos as well. For example, things like search parameters or hashes. There's a lot of very useful things that the URL allows us to do. This URL API allows us to do. So either we can hard code it to do something like this. We can say if request.url is equal to, and I can kind of copy this here, localhost /hello, like that. I'll get rid of this for a second. Then we can return a new response saying hello, right? And then we can say else if request.url is equal to, and then I can paste that in again, and I can say /by. And I can return a new response with see ya. And then if both of these fail, then I want to respond with a not found. Technically, I should change the status code on this, but we'll leave it like that for now, and we'll see some examples of status codes later. New response see ya for bye, new response hello for hello, and we're using the entire URL string right here, and we're actually kind of hard coding that in here, including the protocol, the scheme, the domain, the port, and then also the path name. So that should have restarted my server here. You can see that the file change detected, it's restarting. So if I reload this page now, we'll see not found, and we should again change the status code later. It's going to be still 200. And if I do a /hello, it does go to /hello. And if I /by, it does go to see ya. So that actually is working correctly. Now, I'll get rid of these logs for a second, and I want to show you how we could do this in an alternative way. We could say if url.pathname, and recall that URL is this URL right here, which is we're turning it into the URL. We're passing it to the URL constructor, and we're actually getting the parts out of it. In this case, the path name specifically. So this is going to look a little bit neater. We can do if it's equal to /hello. Then we want to kind of do that thing. Else if url.pathname is equal to /by, then we want to do the other thing, right? And I can just copy these really quick over here, just so you don't have to watch me type them. It's the exact same return statements, right? And that's going to restart my server there. And if I open that up, I think that should restart it. There we go. And if I reload this page, we'll see the exact same results. If I say hello, and then we get hello, and if I say like hello too, we'll get the not found. Okay, so you can see that there's a lot of benefits to kind of going this route. Again, you could even use a switch or something like that if you like, but it all comes down to kind of this idea of like, are you going to use the URL constructor is very, very powerful. Yeah, it's going to pull out all these complicated things from this URL, and they can get quite complicated pretty quickly. So like, let me just show you what I mean. For example, if I bring these back in really quick, and I say /hello too, and I do like let me do this in Insomnia just for a change, just so we can see that working there and have that set up as well. In Insomnia, I'm going to go into a new collection. Actually, I'll create a new collection here. I'll call this, I'll do a plus new collection in Insomnia, and I'll do, this is the routing exercises. I had a my brain stopped working for a second. And then once I'm in that collection here, routing exercises, I can create a new request here by pressing the plus HTTP request, and I can rename each of these. I'll rename this to the warm-up. And in here, I can paste the, oops, that's not what I wanted. I wanted to grab this right here, which is my port and my name for everything. And in here, we can say, if I do a send, we can see not found there in the bottom. If I say hello, we'll get back our hello. If I do hello to, I get back not found. But take a look at this. If I do hello, and then I have like a question mark. These are called query parameters or search parameters. And I say like question, like let's say Q equals like 1, 2, 3. And then I have like, we'll see this in future videos. And I don't know, like ID is equal to ABC or something. And then I can even have like a hashtag at the end here. And then I'll say like header 1, right? So this is totally a valid URL. In fact, they can get even kind of crazier looking than this. But if I send this off, notice that I still get my hello, right? This is pretty great because that means that it's technically ignoring all of this stuff because that's actually not part of the path name. So let's take a look at what happened here. If I switch back, we can see that we have over here the URL here is. There we go. That's the one I'm looking for. Oh, it's a bit far down. Let me see if I can move that up a little bit for us. There we go. I was like, where did that one go? So that is the full URL. And notice that if we use our if statement for this particular case, it would actually fail. We would actually get the not found in this case because we're matching exactly this string, which is not match this string. So that's another danger of using the regular if statement with just the raw URL. Notice that this URL breaks it out into all of its parts, which is the href, which is the entire string, which is what we were looking at before. But then we also have, in this case, you can see some useful stuff in here. Let me make this go down a little bit so we can see that. You can see that the path name here is /hello, and that's what we're matching on, even though there is all this other stuff after it. You can see here we have the Q equals 1, 2, 3, and ID equals ABC. And that's quite cool because that pulls out all of the search parameters in this case. I think we're missing the hash in this example because that's mainly used for the front end, and we normally wouldn't use that to pop down to things on the back end. So that's totally fine. That I guess is being stripped out by Deno. I'd have to look that up. But there is a whole bunch of other stuff that we could be adding to this URL. And we really wouldn't want to be trying to figure all that out or writing our own regex really for that stuff. So that's where you would, at least in a basic example like this, you want to use something like this URL constructor so you can have that do all the hard work of pulling all that stuff out for us. And then we can actually pump this into other objects later on, and we can actually grab each of those key value pairs out, which we'll see in future videos. So yeah, there you have it. That is actually this entire warm-up. I went a little bit more in depth in that one since I wanted a good setup and just to go over some things we didn't go over in the previous video, just so you have an idea of what's happening. But hopefully that one makes sense for you. Let's take a look at the first exercise together. Okay, so for this one, what I'd like you to do is, again, start a new Deno workspace, create a server.ts file. Start Deno up, use the default port, again, 8000. And I want you to, this time, use the URLPattern API to match these routes. So don't use just URL by itself or the href or path name directly. I want you to use this URLPattern API. Did I say path name? URLPattern API, which we looked at towards the end and spent quite a bit of time in the previous video to actually create these matching routes where it actually creates the regex for it behind the scenes. So I want to use that API to match these path names here. /register for registered, /login, it's going to return logged in as a string, /logout, it's going to return logged out as a string, and then every other route is just going to return not found. So test these both in Insomnia and your browser once you have that working. And you can look up the docs for URLPattern MDN too if you want a bit of a hint as to how that works. But give that a shot and then we'll go through it together. Okay, so I'll create a new folder here. I'll do ex1 and I'll do a new file here. I'll do server.ts. In here, I'll do deno.serve and I'll do my handler. Up here, I'll do my async function handler handler is equal to request. We're going to get our request in there. And what I like to do is usually grab the URL out here. As we mentioned in the previous exercise, we're going to do a new URL. This is request.url. So that's going to split it into its specific parts. Now what we want to do is we want to match on these three routes right here. So I'm just going to copy that. And actually, let me copy all this here. And I'll just come up here and I will paste it in. And I will put that in some comments just so we can have that ready. So I want to up here create a URL pattern for each of these. So I'm going to say const, let's just do register pattern is equal to a new URL pattern. And the easiest way to do this, there's many ways to create these URL pattern objects, but since these are all just path names, I'm going to give it an object and I'm going to say I want you to match on the path name /register. Okay, I'm going to do that for each of these. I'm going to say const login pattern is equal to a new URL pattern for in this case path name. Path name is /login, and one more here. We'll say const pattern, const logout pattern. And you can imagine, right, how this would kind of be a nice starter format for us creating like an authentication set of routes where we would actually want to use these to actually do their actual behaviors. And we'll see examples of how to do that once we get to authentication later on, after we see all the things like get, put, post, and delete and whatnot. Okay, so those are our three patterns, and they're going to return these strings depending on what's actually happening in them. And every other route, where it will just handle with a default at the very end here. I'll just do a return a new response at the very end, and I'll just say not found. Okay. And what I'll do in this one is I'll actually create the proper status code. So I'll do a comma after this, and I'll put an object. And in here you can see that in this object we can have status and a status text. So status, if I hover over this, I think it's going to actually, that's going to be in the documentation, but this is going to be a 404 status code. And then we could alter the text if we want, but I'll just leave it as a 404 just so we can see what that's going to look like when we actually try this out differently. So let's deal with each of these. These are all going to be 200 responses by default, status 200. So we're going to do, let's do register first. So I'll say if register pattern dot test. So we want to test this pattern against our URL. And since our URL already has a path name property in it, it's going to be able to directly effectively match this path name here with the path name that we saw in the URL, which is quite nice, which is why I like using this constructor. We could also pass it, I believe, the actual raw string, but again, this is much more flexible if we do it this way. So if we have this, then we're going to return a new response, and we're going to say registered. And then else if, and this one's going to be the login pattern. Oops, login pattern dot test. Again, the URL. And here we're going to return a new response. And for this one, we're going to say logged in. And else if, we're going to have our logout pattern. And if that matches the URL's path name, then we want to return a new response. And that's going to be logged out. All right. And if none of those match, then we're going to return our 404, which is our not found. Okay. So we are creating our patterns, and that's going to match those path name patterns against this URL. And then we're going to basically be switching through them, or in this case, if conditionaling through them. And every other case is going to respond with this. Now, there are ways that we could probably take this into another function, which we'll see in future videos to organize things a bit better. But this is effectively at its core what we need to actually get working. So let me stop my previous server here, and I'll do I'll change up a server or a level. I'll change into my ex1 folder here, and I'll make sure I'm in the correct one here, and I'll do Deno run. --allow -net -watch server.ts. And there we go. It's on port 8000. So I'll test this in Chrome first. So if I do slash hello2, I get back a not found. I'm just going to show you what I mean with the status codes here. If I go to the network tab and I refresh this, we'll see that we do get a 404 here, which is different from a 200, which implies that we did found something. So in this case, we get a 404 not found, which is that status that we were sending back. And that's coming from right over here, this status 404. So if we try our register here, let's see what happens. Register. So that matches log in. You can see that's a 200 status, log in registered, and log out registers. And if we try this in Insomnia, we'll get the exact same thing here. Maybe I'll create a new request for this. This is going to be, let's rename this. This is going to be exercise 1. And I'll just copy this. So we want to do slash register, and register should not be not found. I don't think it's not found. Oh, it just had the, I don't know why I had to send it twice in a time. I'll really have to check that out. So we get 200 okay. If I do register 2, for example, we will get a not found. If I do a login here, I get a bad gateway because that's absolutely not a route because I missed a slash, logged in, and then log out, and then pretty much anything else. Actually, no, log out should be 200. I should really look into what those errors are. Why I sometimes send things twice here. And if I do meow, that definitely is not found. So we can get a 404, which is quite nice. Insomnia actually can see it does kind of color code things quite nicely for us. So that'll be quite helpful as we build more complex APIs. So there you have it. That's effectively exactly how you would probably do this with the URL pattern. There are many other methods you could use. You can kind of change the way that you construct these patterns, and we'll see some examples of that. But this is probably the simplest way that I could think of to actually get this exercise working, and probably to also explain and understand when you first look at it. So we create the pattern, we test it against that URL object, and then we can either a true or false, we go into that condition, and then we can do the thing that we need. So there you go. That's the first exercise. Hopefully that was interesting. Let's take a look at exercise 2 together. All right. I'll stop the server here and I'll close the terminal so we can read this. So same thing for this one. Start a Deno workspace and create a server.ts file. Start a web server in Deno. Listen on the default port 8000. So those steps are the same. The main difference here is, again, I want you to use the same URL pattern API, but I want you to match on these routes here. And these routes are becoming more complex. And this is something much more similar to what we would be seeing. Let me just move this up a little bit. What we'd be seeing when we actually start creating our routes, when we do things like get requests and put requests and post requests, we're going to be creating these complex patterns, for example, to register a user or to view the user's profile or to view the user's posts, depending on what kind of app we're building. We want different types of routes, and this is one way that we would actually be creating them. So let me show you what I mean. When you respond to localhost 8000, anything that's /profile /something, I want you to respond with hello and then that something. So for example, if I do /profile /natter, it would be hello natter, and I get that back as a string. Okay, and you can change that dynamically at the end here because it's a dynamic or custom route in this case. So same thing with the second route here, except this is a more complex route with two dynamic parts to it. In this case, we have localhost 8000 posts /post and then we have two different matches here. We have a post ID and then we have a / and we have a user ID. So you can think of this as, for example, we say we want all posts by this user. It might be like one example of this. Now, there are many ways to do this, and you may or may not do it this way in practice, but there are definitely routes where we have multiple matches along them, and this is just one such example. So in this case, we want to show that we can actually match on both of those groups and actually return a string with both of those. So in this case, we'd say all posts for, and then we'd actually pull out that user ID and post ID and put them in a string and return that to the user. So if we were to change these things in these slashes in those spots, this would change actually in that string that gets sent back. So we had two dynamic portions to the string and one dynamic portion to this part of the path name right here. So test that both out in your browser and in Insomnia, and then give it your best shot. You can also take a look at the URL pattern documentation on MDN, and we'll go through it together. All right, so I'll create a new folder here. I'll do ex2, and I'll create a server.ts file in here. And I'll do Deno.serve, and I'll say my handler, this is going to be on port 8000 by default. So I'll say async function handler. This is going to take a request object, and we're going to return, in the worst case, we're going to return a, let's just do a new response. We'll just have good practice for this. We'll say not found. We probably want to respond with a web page if it's a web site, or in this case, a JSON object or something, if it's a JSON API, but we'll just go with this for now, status 404. And up here, we'll say const URL is equal to a new URL of the request.url. So we have that, and then we can grab the path name from that if we want. So let's take a look at those two. I'll actually pull those up. So this one right here, I'll copy that and I'll paste that in. Lots of spacing there. And I'll copy the second one as well, just so we can see that. And we can do that right below it. All right, so we need to make patterns for each of these. So for this one, I'll say const, let's just say profile pattern is equal to a new URL pattern. And this we want to match the path name. And the path name in this case is going to be /profile. But now here's the thing. We want it to match /profile, but then /something. And we want to be able to actually grab that something by this name and then actually like send it back to the user. So if I do /profile/monkey, I'll get back monkey. If I do /profile/panda, I'll get back panda. So the way that we do this is using the API for this allows you to do exactly this, which is pretty nice. So we'll say username. So what I'm saying here is create like a group, what's called a capture group, and give it a name of username for anything that matches kind of this string like regular expression, where I have the URL, and then for the path name portion of that URL, which is this part right here, I want to match /profile/something, and then give that something a name, username that I can actually grab in the code. We can do that for this one as well. So take a look at this one. This is going to be const, let's do posts pattern. We probably will give these more specific names eventually, or we can kind of create like a layered nesting version of these routes, and we can route into another route into another route. It depends on how you want to go about it. So we'll start with this so you can have an idea of how that would work. Again, we're still going to match the path name here, and this one is a bit more complex, but it's actually the same kind of idea. So we have /posts, then we have /something, and that something in this case, I just want to give a name of post ID. Maybe it's like a 3 or some alphanumeric code for that post ID. I just arbitrarily chose this. This would be actually something we would make in our API later. And I want a / and then something else in this case, /user ID. So for example, it'd be like /2/3. Might be an example of this, like /post/2/3 or /post/abc/123. That would be something that these would match. So let's see how we can actually grab these. So we're going to say if the profile pattern tests matches with our URL. So if we indeed are in this case right here, where the path name is /profile/username, what we can do is we can grab that username out of it. So I'll just scroll down a little bit so we have some space and you can actually see me code this here. So we'll say, we want to kind of grab the username out of this group. So we have to actually execute this regex against this and grab that group out of it. So we'll say const matches is equal to, we're going to take that profile pattern, we're going to call execute on it, .exec, and we can give it a string to execute against, or in this case, the URL object. So we're going to execute on that URL object because it has a path name already on it, and that's exactly how this test works as well. So what that's going to give us back is a match object, and in that match object, we're going to have some groups. Let me show you what I mean. I'll do console.log, and in here I'll say matches. Let me maybe just log that out for now, and we'll take a look at if we can actually see that logged out in Deno correctly. And then we'll actually continue with this part in a second. So we're actually close to being done actually, which is pretty nice. I'm going to make sure I'm in the correct folder here. I don't think I am. I'm going to cd up. I'm going to go to ex2. Then I'm in the correct folder. I'm going to do Deno run --allow -net --watch, so I don't have to keep restarting it, and then server.ts, and then I have my 8000 port here. And now what we can see is if I go to /profile/something, so let me do this in Insomnia, I'll do a new request here, and I'll say I'll rename this to ex2, just so we have an organization going. And I'll copy this here. So if I do slash profile, was it slash profile? I already forgot. Short-term memory. Slash profile slash username. So I'll say slash profile, and then I'll say slash monkey, for example. And if I send that off, I'll get a not found, which is not what I expected. Actually, no, it is what I expected, because we didn't actually return anything in this case. So I sent it off a few times there. But what we can see here is we have matches, which is this gigantic object. Let me actually just do this one more time, just so we can see just one of them, so I don't get confused. I got too trigger happy with my button clicking here. I clicked it too many times. So if I search back here, we'll see that this is our match object. I'll try to make it go up a little bit here. So here are the inputs in this case. You can see that here is the protocol matches, username matches, password matches, hostname matches, port matches, pathname matches, and search and hash matches. So each of those parts of that URL actually has some matches, which is quite powerful if you think about it, right? We can match on literally any part of this URL, which is just kind of amazing. This kind of blows my mind a little bit when I see this every single time. But the part that we're interested in is this part right here, which is the path name. So take a look at this one that I have highlighted right here. The path name, we gave it an input of slash profile slash monkey, right? Which is our string input from our URL. That's the actual path name that was given to it by this constructor right here. This new URL created that path name for us by parsing it out for us, which is why we're using the URL constructor. And then it's saying that it matched the groups using this regex right here. It matched the groups username, and that's the value for the username match. And username is coming from here. That's the name that we told it to match for that group after the slash for profile. And we're getting back monkey. And we have it as a key, pathname dot username. Pathname.groups.username is exactly where that's going to be. So that's pretty awesome. So let me see if that's true. So if I say console log matches.pathname.groups.username, and I log that out instead, let me go back to my Insomnia, and I'll click send here, and I'll try another one here. I'll say moo, and I'll do send, and let's take a look at what we get. So we get monkey and we get moo. Right? That's pretty awesome. So what we have here is the ability to actually pull this out of that object for the match group. So I'm going to say const username is equal to that instead of just logging it out. Can't really spell here. There we go, username. And what I want to respond with is that username. So now that I have that, I can actually respond to this. I can say return a new response, and I forget what other requirements were. We're going to say hello and then username. Here we go. So I'll do a template string here. I'll say hello, and then I'll say the username, and I'll do an exclamation. Okay? And that's going to be status 200 by default. So I'll save that, and then the server should restart there. And I'll go back to Insomnia here, and I'll send this off, and I'll get hello moo, and I'll do let's do my name here, Natter. And I get hello Natter. So that's pretty awesome, right? We're able to dynamically grab this part of the URL from that match. Now notice if I do something else, like here, if I do natter/moo, now this is not going to match anymore because this is a totally different URL, which is actually what we do want, because we don't want to accidentally match things that don't make sense and respond with the wrong thing. So in this case, we do get the correct thing, and this can match any text that we put inside here, which is pretty beautiful. So let's finish this one off here. Let's do the else if. We'll say we want to match the post pattern, post pattern.test, and we want to test it against the URL here. And again, same thing here. We'll say const matches is equal to, we want to take the post pattern, and we want to execute it on the URL, and we're going to get back our matches. So in this case, we actually have two matches. So let me show you what I mean. If I console.log out the matches here, what we'll see, let me pull up my terminal again. So this is going to be at /post ID/user ID. So if I go back to Insomnia and I do this, is going to be /posts, and then post ID, let's say post123, and then user, let's say user ABC, for example. Okay. And if I send that off, I get a not found because I haven't sent a response yet. But if I come back here and I come back to this object, let me make this kind of come up here a little bit. What you'll see is that the path name match has this input and this group, and these are the two matched groups, post ID and user ID, right? Exactly as you would expect on the path name. So what we can do is we can say, we can do something like this. We can say like const, there are kind of a few ways to go about this. It really depends on how you want to do your error handling and things like that. But I can like destructure out of, I can say equals matches dot path name dot groups. And I can destructure out of that those two, in this case, post ID and user ID. Now you'd want to be a bit careful here. You see that in this case, where is it saying it does not exist on type record string. So it's saying that technically we could not this would crash our code, because if we try to pull out something that doesn't exist in this case, it would be kind of bad news. So I think here we can probably suppress this, or we can say equals that. I actually don't know the easiest way. So this is some TypeScript funkiness. So I'll show you what I mean, actually. Let's return a new response. And if I just assume that those are there and I say, what was the requirements here? All posts for, let me just copy this so you don't have to watch me type it. All posts for user ID and post ID, just like that. Now it's not sure that in this case, that it's actually there. You can think of a case where we don't actually have that and we're trying to destructure this out of this. So even though we're optionally chaining this in this case, there could be cases where this does exist and that group doesn't exist. So I would actually probably in this case, there's some funkiness with TypeScript you can do. I'll just go super basic for now. I'll just say const user ID is equal to this dot user ID. And then I'll do the same thing for post ID. And I'll say post ID in this case. Okay, and I'll just go the super simple solution for that, just so we don't get too fancy and confused. Just so you can see some different ways you could actually approach this. Okay, so what we're doing here is grabbing those two matches. We're responding with those, and that's going to get a new response for profile pattern, different response for post pattern, and a 404 not found for our every other case. And our server should have restarted there. So there we go, file change detected. And if I go back to Insomnia and I send this off, look at that. I get all posts for user ABC post 123, and I can change this to whatever I want, right? I can say like post, and then I can say like a whole bunch of different numbers, and then user, and I can do a whole bunch of different numbers, and I'll get all that back. And if I have any other route, or if I have /hello, for example, it's not going to work. But if I do have things that are not part of the path name, like for example, query parameters, and I say query equals hello, it still is going to work, which is amazing. Like that's super, super powerful. So we're going to be using this a lot. If you think about all the stuff that's happening here behind the scenes on kind of these routes, it's quite a lot that's happening. Like we have to split up this URL. That's pretty complicated. We have to match on this path name. Then we can grab the different groups and we can even give them names. Like there's a lot of stuff happening in a little bit of code here. And it's quite remarkable. So I hope you enjoyed this one. We're going to be using this method quite a lot, and we can see some examples of how we can shorten things even more and clean things up a little bit as we go. All right, let's take a look at the final exercise for this video, exercise 3. Now, I do want to kind of preface this by saying this one is definitely a bit challenging. So you're going to require like a bit of a tenacity as you go through this. It's not too crazy. I was going to name it bonus, but it's so important that we go through this one. Specifically, it'll give you a very, very strong understanding of how web servers work in general, apart from just a REST API. And file servers as well. And I think that's a really important part of just understanding kind of a bit of how we're doing. Even though we're doing REST API specifically, there are cases where you would want to read and write files or respond with files specifically to the client. And it's important to know how to do that. In this case, we're going to see a really fancy example of that. So for this exercise, what we're going to do is create a new Deno workspace as usual and create a server.ts file in it. And then create a web server like before, listen on the default port 8000. So that part's all the same. What I want you to do though is in that folder that you create, if you are creating a folder, or just in the same directory or file as or folder as your server file, I want you to create a home.html file. Okay. Now, if you're thinking, oh my gosh, Nader, I don't want to do HTML. I came here to do like REST API backend stuff. It's like a very simple HTML file. All I want you to do is have like an image tag, just an image tag, okay, in there, and it's going to have a SRC, a source, pointing to an image of your choice. And I'd like you to just download a random image off the internet and kind of pull that into to your application. I'll include a image that you can use as well with this if you want to clone down the repo, just so you can grab that easily, or you can just find one off the internet. It really is up to you, whichever is easier for you. So once you have that image file, I want you to link to it in the source, in that image tag in the HTML. Okay. And that's pretty much it for the HTML file, right? You can put some other stuff in there like a header if you like, just to make it nice, but mainly just the image file is what we need. Now, I want you to effectively, the whole point of this is to effectively make it so the image shows in your browser or in Insomnia. Okay, so like when you navigate to localhost 8000 and you get this HTML file served to you, I want you to send back the HTML file, but also have it so that the image tag actually shows up properly. So there's a bit of things going on. I kind of have it spelled out here. Respond to the requests with the HTML file. So this is for every single route. So we're not doing routing for specifically the HTML file in this case, but we are doing routing for something else. And I don't want to give away too much here. I'll give you some hints though. You want to make it so that the image tag is able to successfully download the image from your server as well, for however it is requesting that. And I want you to test this both in browser and Insomnia. So here are some hints. You should be able to check in your network tab in Chrome to see the requests that are being made and the URLs that are being requested in Chrome, for example, when you're actually opening this up. You should also be able to see it in Insomnia, I believe, but we'll test that later on. So test this in Chrome or browser first. And I want you to think, how would you conditionally route this request once you take a look at it in Chrome and in the network tab? Like, what is it asking for? And how would your server know that it's asking for that specifically versus asking for just the HTML file normally? So give that a shot, see how far you can get, and then we'll go through it together. All right, so I'm super excited for this one. This is a pretty cool one. We get to kind of see a bit of a file server action and web server action. It's pretty fun. So I'll create a server.ts file. I'll also create a home.html file in here. In the HTML file, I'll just start with that. I'll just do HTML, and in this case, I'll just do, I guess, a head, and I'll say I'll say title in here, and this is going to be exercise 3. You don't have to do this. I'm just gonna make it like like proper with the head and everything. Technically, we need a doc type up here as well, but ignore that for now. Here's the interesting part. We have an image tag, and we can alternately have the alt. I'll put that in there actually as well. I'm gonna download an image and put that in here in this folder, and then we can refer to it from this source. So if I go to Chrome, I'll just go to Google and I'll search for monkey, my favorite animal here, and I'll go to images, and I'll just look for small images, or let's do medium images. I'll go to tools here, and you can search by size, which is pretty nice. Let's grab what's a cute one here. Maybe we all have different ideas of cute. I like these squirrel monkeys, spider monkeys. Let's go with this one right here. There you go. Look at that hairdo. Oh man. So I'm going to right click, open image in a new tab. Then I can right click this and I can do save image as. I'll just fast forward this so you don't see all my file system and all that kind of stuff, some folders in there. All right, so I switched back to VS Code here. You can see that I did download that file and I did put it inside this folder. I saved it as a JPEG file. do keep in mind that sometimes when you're grabbing images off Google, do be careful with the copyright and all that kind of stuff as you're grabbing these images. You want to be careful of the copyright restrictions. Maybe you can use stock photos, for example. I'm just doing this locally. I'm not going to be like publishing this on like a commercial website or anything. So it's just for tutorial purposes. So if you are going to be using it on a real website, you'd want to make sure that you have the copyright information correctly on there, or from a stock image. So also be aware that sometimes it's not a JPEG image. So make sure you're getting the right extension here, and you actually have to refer to that extension correctly back in your HTML file. So in this case, I put it in the same folder. Make sure you put it in the same folder so you're not accidentally not finding it. And I can say in this case, I named it cutemonkey.jpg. Right, that's what I named my file, and I'll put this in the exercises as well, just so that you can actually grab that if you want to use that image, or if you want to use any other image. So there's cutemonkey.jpg, and I'll say a cute monkey, and that's our alt tag. Okay, so that's pretty much it. That's how we're going to go about our image source. And now we have to make this work with our server. And I do want to emphasize, be careful with the file names here. Make sure that you have all that referring to the correct thing, just so that we can grab that on the server, which we'll see in a second. So in my server TS file, I'm going to do deno.serve, and I'll say my handler here. And I'll say async function handler. And I'll do my request object. I'll do const URL is equal to a new URL of my request.url. And what I'll do to start is I'll just figure out how I can grab that HTML file and just send it back to the user. So I'm going to say const HTML file is equal to deno.open. There are many ways you can do this. You can do this simply with the synchronous API or read file. I'm just going to go with open since it's the most flexible. And I'm going to open the /home.html. And that means in the current folder, home.html, which is in the same folder as my server file. Okay, so once I have that, I think I can await to this actually. So that is a promise. I get back a promise of a file, so I can await it, which is why we have an async function. And then what I can do is I can return a new response. And there are many ways to do this. You can just read the entire file into memory, or you can stream it to the user. I'm just going to go with the streaming method. In this case, I'm going to HTML file readable. And this is a readable stream of binary data. So we can actually send that back in chunks to the user if it's a very large file. In this case, it's not going to make too much of a difference, but just good to know that you can stream data quite nicely, and response objects do support that natively, which is pretty nice. And then I believe that this should actually close the stream automatically and the connection to the file as well once it reaches the end. So I'll have to look into that though. This is relatively newer stuff, so I have to confirm some of the intricate details of the inner workings of some of these things. But we have our file hopefully served in this case, HTML or home.html, which is in this directory. So I'm going to save that file. I'll go over my terminal here. I'll close my previous one. I'll go up a folder, make sure I can go to ex3 and make sure I have all my files in there. There I have all my files in my ex3, and I'll do deno run --watch --allow--net. And in this case, I also need a allow-read. So Deno can actually read files from the file system because that is a permission we have to give it. And I will give it the name server.ts. And once I do that, I should have my localhost 8000 already set up. If I go back to my Chrome here and I refresh the page, it doesn't really matter, I guess, which page I'm on, but we can see I do get a cute monkey. And I'll get rid of that there just so I can just have the base URL so no one gets confused. You can see that we get the text a cute monkey. And if we look at the elements tab, we can look in the body, we can see image source cutemonkey.jpg. And that seems to be working correctly. We even have our title working in there, so that's quite nice. But what's interesting here is there's a bit of an issue. So let me zoom in on this one a little bit more here, and I'll click on this localhost, and you can see that when we first load this page, we're making a request to localhost 8000/. So what's going to happen when that happens? Well, we're going to go to our server, and we're going to create a URL, which we haven't used yet. We're going to open a file and we're going to respond with that file. So regardless of which route we're using, we're always going to respond with that file. So that is the HTML file. So if I go back to Chrome here and I look at the actual response, you can see that that's the HTML file that we get back. We can even see a preview of it, which is just this HTML file. Okay, so that makes sense. That's 200 and that's fine. Now, technically we should have given it headers and said it's an HTML file, content type and all that kind of stuff. So we should probably fix that, but let's take a look at this really quick to see what's happening. Once the HTML loads, inside of that HTML file, as we saw, there's this src for cutemonkey.jpg. So what does that mean? That's telling the browser, hey browser, I am just a bunch of text, because that's what HTML is, just a bunch of text. I need to grab another resource. And that resource is called cutemonkey.jpg, and it's going to be on the server. So the browser is going to make another request for that specific file on the server. And if we open that request up, that's this one right here, this cutemonkey one right here. You can see that the request URL is http localhost 8000/cutemonkey.jpg. But then the response is, we're not really responding with anything in this case. Actually, I think technically we're responding with our HTML. I'm not really sure why that's not showing here, but we're not actually responding with the correct thing in this case, because I think it's because the file probably was open at the time of this exact response, or I'll have to check exactly why this is blank right now. But regardless of why that's happening, this is not what we want. We need to be able to respond with this image file in this case where they're searching for this JPEG file, right? So right now we're responding with HTML technically, and that's not good. So we need to be able to grab that URL and actually respond conditionally on that URL. So let's think about how we might do that. Well, if I come back to Chrome here, this is the entire URL. Here's the path name, right? So in theory, maybe I would put everything in like a static folder or an HTML folder or a public folder or something like that. Let's just ignore that for now and just go super basic so we don't have to worry about organization directories. Let's just say I'm going to assume that if something is this name, something.jpg, for example, I want to respond with the image file. Okay, so let's think about that. So I'll come back to VS Code here and I'll say const image pattern is equal to a new URL pattern, and I'm going to make a URL pattern for images from the path name. So I'm going to say path name, and in this case, it's going to be slash something.jpg. So we're going to have like a .jpg in this case, and be careful with the name here. We probably want to create multiple patterns for PNG, for JPEG, or match on multiple of these, which we can do in one regex if we want. But I'll just match just the one that we have so we don't get too fancy and confused. Now, I want it to match .jpg. But the problem with this is that, well, there's a few problems. This is only going to match .jpg. So the path name is definitely not .jpg. The path name is cutemonkey.jpg. So we need to match, let me pull it over so we can see exactly what we're matching. So I'll copy this over. We're trying to match this, right? Cutemonkey.jpg. So let's figure out, first of all, like this part right here, that's what we're working on. How do we match .jpg? Well, dot in regular expressions actually means match, like I think it's like any character or something like that. So we need to escape that to mean the actual dot. And since this is regex in a string, we actually have to double escape this, just like that. So I'm saying I want the literal dot and then JPEG. That's what I want. I want it to match something that has a literal dot in it and then ends with JPEG. So that covers this part. But how about this part right here, cutemonkey? Well, we want any amount of stuff and then a .jpg, right? It shouldn't be blank. It shouldn't just be like .jpg like that. We don't want that. We want at least one thing in there and then a .jpg. So a way that we can do that is we can just do something like this. We could just say, I want any character and then at least one of them, just like this. Okay. And notice that this is the regex dot, not an actual dot. This is the actual dot because we escaped it, double escaped it in the context of a string expression. I think if we made this a string template string, we could do just a regular 1/, which might be easier to understand. But I'll just leave it as a regular string because I think that's going to catch a lot of people as well. So we're escaping this dot to mean a literal dot JPEG, and this dot means any character at least once or more times, which means that this is going to match anything dot JPEG is what that's saying. All right, so let's respond differently in that case. So I'm going to say if the image pattern dot test against our URL's path name, if that is a match, then we are in the image case where we're requesting an image. So I'm going to say const image file is equal to deno.open, and I'm going to grab this cute monkey.jpg. Be careful with the file name here, and I'm going to await that. And then we're going to do the same thing. I'm going to return a new response with the image file dot readable, and I'll stream that back to the user. Okay. And we could do this synchronously. We could do it all in one memory at once. But if these are large files, streamable like this is quite nice. So same thing here. We're responding with the file only in this case. And in every other case, we're responding with HTML. So let's see if this works. Let's save this. Hopefully my server restarts there. It did restart. I'll come back to Chrome and I'll refresh this page. Moment of truth. Internal server error. That was so anticlimactic. I love those ones when they happen. So I get a 500 error in this case, which means that Deno probably crashed. Let's take a look at why. Parse error, expected token end, found plus of other modifier. Okay, so what this is saying to us is that we have a incorrect regular expression here. Right, so this is technically being parsed or turned into a regular expression behind the scenes for us. And Deno, or in this case, the URLPattern API inside Deno is not liking this because it's trying to turn this into a regular expression and it's not working. So let's try to figure out why this is exactly. I know that there is some finickiness with the URLPattern API that makes it slightly different from regex. So let me actually show you how I would probably approach debugging this just as an exercise together, just because that is a useful thing that we're going to be doing together a lot during these videos in the future as we're going to be doing URL patterns manually. So if I go back to Google here, I'll just do URLPattern API on MDN. And if I search that, I can probably go to this one right here, URLPattern API. There's also URLPattern, which is a constructor. Eventually, you'll probably want to see some examples of that, which is this one right here, URLPattern API. So if I make this a little bit bigger here, we can probably look at some examples. If we scroll really far down, you can see some examples of how this works. I believe that this one works slightly differently. So look, it says regex matchers. They're using groups here, for example. So I have a feeling that we might have to do something like this, but that's with a named parameter. They're using more groups over here. Scroll down a bit further, unnamed and named groups. So this is actually something that I do want to show you in a second. So we'll actually have that up. So I want to test something out really quick as well on another website, which is, I highly recommend you have this open, regex 101. And I'll open that one up. And that's going to look something like this. So we're going to insert a regular expression up here. So if I go to here and I kind of copy this one, I should also realize that my slash is missing. I wonder if that's what it is. So if I do my slash and I resave this, it's going to restart my server there. I don't think that's going to work actually. I think it's a different issue. Yeah, we still get the 500 error. But if I come back to regex 101 here and I paste my regular expression in here, and I try to match against this URL, I'll copy that URL, go back to Chrome, and I'll paste the matching string down here. We have to do slightly differently since this is a regular expression without the string literal syntax. So in this case, I want to get rid of the double escape because we're only escaping it once, because the other escape is for the JavaScript string. And we can see that we matched the entire thing, which is actually technically correct. Now we want to match, I think, a slash first. But then we have to do, a slash, and then we gotta do a backslash here. So it's technically doing that for us behind the scenes, but you can see this still matches this part right here, but we're only matching the host name anyway. So we actually don't have this part. So I'm gonna pull that, actually, this is gonna match the whole string. So I'm gonna pull that off just like this. So we can actually see, actually, I wonder if I do have the, I lost it. If I go back here and I copy that, paste that in, I wonder if I can do this. No, that's still a new line. And then if I do that, yeah. So you can see that that does match this part right here. So that's kind of interesting. So that means our expression actually is working. I have a feeling that it has to do with the URL pattern API. We've got to look into it in more depth. I'm going to try putting this in a group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take all of this stuff here, and I'm just going to basically put it in a what's called a capture group, just like that. And that's going to capture this as a group, cutemonkey.jpg. You see how that's the group one right there? I have a feeling that might be what it is specifically for this URL pattern API, because that is what they do end up using, and what's something we're going to be doing in a second if we want to name it. So I'll switch back to Chrome here, or VS Code here, and I'm going to just take this entire thing here after the slash, so I can get rid of the slash. I don't really need that. I'll put the closing regular parentheses at the end of JPEG here, and then a starting open parentheses right after the slash here. And I'll save that. And let's see if it recognizes that path there. So any character at least one time, and then a literal dot, and then JPEG. If I switch back to Google Chrome, moment of truth, I'll refresh this page. Oh my God, look at that. Oh, it's such a big image though. I should really make that image a bit smaller. I'll do that really quick just so we can all see the cute monkey. You don't see random grass in the background. So if I switch back to my home.html here, what I can do is I can just add like a width maybe is equal to, I don't know, like 200 pixels, just so that it becomes a bit smaller that way. So it forces the height to match the 200, whatever the width would be according to the aspect ratio. And then I'll go back to my server here and I'll just refresh this page and we should get our little monkey there. So that's working quite nicely. Now let's take a look at how this is working. This localhost is going to this URL and it's grabbing back this response. This one here is going to this URL and it's getting back this image file directly. And you can see that this is being chunked as well. And it's, in this case, we should actually technically also send back the content type headers as well for image JPEG, which would be the correct thing to do. Same with this would be content type of image HTML. But this is already quite complex enough with what we have here. So I do want to show one more thing that's going to be useful for us though. So notice really what's happening here is we're matching against this URL pattern, and I'll mention this group thing in a second because we're going to see how that works. But we're matching against this URL pattern, and anything that doesn't match something.jpg at the end is going to be returning an HTML file. Otherwise, we're going to return the image file. So what we can do here is once we're in here, I'll show you what I want to show you with this grouping. So I'll say const matches is equal to, I'm going to take our image pattern and I'm going to execute it on the URL. I don't know why I always do URL. And I'll just log out those matches just so we can take a look. I'll log out matches.pathnames since we know that that's what we're actually matching against. We don't want to see the whole object since we saw that in the previous exercise. I'll save that and I'll come back here and I'll refresh this page. I'll go back to Chrome or VS Code, and we can see that we get back, this is our input, and here's our group. So we're getting back an automatically named group, in this case starting at 0, and we're getting back the actual group match in this case, which is cutemonkey.jpg. Now, that's pretty nice. So we can actually open up the path name based on this, which dynamically, which is pretty awesome. So if I was to ask for a different URL for a different image, I can actually grab different files from my file system. But it'd be nice to actually, instead of having 0 as well, have this actually be named. So a nice way to do this would be if I just give this a name here, colon, this is where the group comes in. I'll say like file name, for example. If I save this, notice this is 0 before. Okay, and if I save this and I give it a name now, and then I put the group match right here, and I save that, I'll go back to Chrome, I'll refresh, and then I'll come back here. Notice that that's now file name. So it has a nice name instead of just randomly being starting at 0, 1, 2, 3 with all the matches. I can give it a named match, which is why I had a feeling that this group was kind of messing up the regex specifically for URL pattern, even though it's a correct regex in general. Okay. So what we could then do here is actually we could grab pathname dot where is it? Pathname dot groups dot file name. Let me just close this off just so we can see. We can say file name const file name is equal to matches.group.file name. Now you would want to do some error handling here, right? Like if the file name exists, then only try to open the file. Otherwise, throw an error, file not found or something like that. But for now, what I'll do is I'll just put that directly in here. And actually, the funny thing is it's actually, this is the nice thing about TypeScript and Deno. This is saying that, hey, you didn't check to see if this was undefined. Right? Like technically, because we're optionally chaining here, this could not exist on there, right? So what we could probably do is multiple things here. We could say like that, or we could do like file name or like not found or something like that, right? Like that's an example of something we could do, or we could just do an if statement and return a different error. We could do all sorts of different things in there. And we're just kind of, this is not probably ideal because we're passing to Deno. This is Deno open. This is actually even worse because now we're trying to pass in something into Deno open. I thought that was my response. So that's actually not what we want to do. You see, that is quite helpful. We probably should do this. If there's no file name, then we want to return a new response saying, file not found, something like that. And we could probably do like a status 404, right? Status 404. Like that's the correct way to do it. I should probably have just done that from the start. The same thing would happen here, right? Like we probably want to put this like in a try catch in practice. And if we're not able to open the file, we would want to do a catch or something, or finally to close the file, depending on which API we're using, and actually return a similar type of response instead of just trying to send back random data or have our server crash. I think I was trying to do over here, not found, but in that case, that's after the file is opened. So there's a lot happening here. Let me show you exactly what's happening. If I'll do console.log here of the file name, and I'll open up my terminal and I'll refresh this page, and we'll go back to here and we'll see that that's cutemonkey.jpg. And if I go to Insomnia really quick, I'll just create a new HTTP request and I'll rename this to exercise 3. What I can do in here is I can do /meow.jpg, for example. And I'm going to get an internal server error in this case, because you can see that there's no such file or directory meow.jpg. So actually, what's happening here is exactly the case that I just mentioned, which is we are looking for the case where file name in this case does exist. It is part of the matching group, which is what we saw right here, right? The first one was correct because it did work, but we're assuming that just exists and we're trying to open a file of that name, but incorrectly. If we still have that file, but it doesn't exist, we're trying to open that file dynamically. So we want to probably put this in a try catch. So let me just kind of show you here. I would do like try image dot open, and then we say return a new response of that. And then I could say catch, and we'd say return a new response, for example. And this would be, not found, or file not found, I guess, technically. And this is just a you wouldn't really want to do it this way. We probably want to catch the error type and put the actual error type here, the error message. Or we want to do a whole bunch of finally, for example, if we're closing the file. But I'll just say console.log error. And we can just grab this. For example, I'll show you how we do this. We would say message is the default on there. Okay, and I'll restart that server. So this works still. And we do get back this cutemonkey.jpg. If I go and try grasp it doesn't exist, meow.jpg, you'll see 404 not found. Our server doesn't actually crash, and we do get the error message. This is the error message from Deno. No such file or directory, open meow.jpg. We wouldn't want to kind of return this to the client. We probably want to give like a response like that we sent, but maybe a little bit from this, because we'd be giving away too much information about our backend to the client if we were going to give the raw error message. So you want to be a bit careful with that. But this would be an example of how you would actually have a server not crash using try catch, and you'd probably want to put a file in here to clean up some stuff. In this case, it's a stream, so I think it cleans itself up automatically. But if you weren't using that, you'd want to close the file and do some other cleanup as well. So that was a lot of stuff. I didn't want to go too far down that because I want to show you that there's a lot of stuff that can happen as you start going down this path of even just doing something quote unquote simple like a file server. You can see our web file server in this case. We're grabbing file names and we're matching based on that. And in this case, anything.jpg, but we could now expand on this to be anything.anything. And we could look for those files. We could even have specific folders, like it has to be /static or /public /anything. And then we can grab the extension, we can grab the file name, we can look for it in our system. If it's not found, we can respond with not found. And that's exactly how every single web server works. It's going to grab the file name dynamically, and then it's going to respond to that file name. And if it doesn't exist, we're just going to get a 404 not found or some other error message. And then that's just going to give us that little image not found block in our HTML, it's just going to show us a network status error if we're using another file client like Insomnia or something like that. I was really excited to put this one together. I hope you enjoyed it. There's a lot going on in here, and I encourage you to play around with this some more and try different file names, add multiple images, just expand on this as much as you can, put it on a static directory, a public directory, try different things, have fun with it. In the next video, what we're going to do is finally actually start putting these kind of to the test where we're actually going to be storing some data in a slightly different way. So the next video is going to be about is data storage on the backend, and we're going to be looking at different technologies to actually store data, grab data back out, depending on the route or depending on various other things. And that's going to set us up quite well to finally get started with all the different request methods, things like get, put, post, patch, delete, all that fun stuff, and all the routing and the data storage and all the protocol stuff is already will be complete, so we can actually focus on the actual methods and actually building out our API once and for all. So I hope you enjoyed this set of exercises and got some value out of them. If you did, I'd love it if you could like the video and subscribe to the channel. And if you do want to support the channel a little bit more as well, I have a Patreon set up. You can check it out there. It's in the description as well. I have YouTube membership set up as well as a super thanks. So if you want to show your support that way, I would greatly appreciate that. So I can't wait to get to those data storage videos where we can take a look at all sorts of different technologies together. I will see you in that video.